Somewhere in the black water of the Arabian Sea, USS Abraham Lincoln was running without lights. 180 nautical miles southeast of the Strait of Hormuz, the 100,000-ton nuclear carrier sat low and dark against the horizon, its flight deck alive with the controlled violence of a wartime launch sequence. Steam catapults cycling, deck crews in colored jerseys moving with the choreographed urgency of people who understood that mistakes at this speed, at this weight, in this darkness were permanent. The ship's island blazed with radar arrays rotating in slow, patient sweeps, painting a picture of every aircraft, every vessel, every contact within 400 mm in every direction. And then at 0412, something extraordinary happened. A single F-35C accelerated down Catapult 1, hit the bow, and simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not gone, just invisible. The aircraft climbed through broken cloud, extinguished every active emission, and became the kind of object that radar operators spend careers learning to find and almost never do. A contact smaller than a large bird, a ghost with intent. Somewhere northeast of the carrier, turning toward Iran, carrying no bombs and no strike package and no intention of starting a war tonight. Carrying instead something far more dangerous than ordnance, a question that Washington needed answered, and the willingness to ask it in a language Tehran could not ignore. The question had been building for weeks. An Iranian F-4 Phantom had gone down. The details were sparse because Tehran had made them sparse. The wreckage recovered with unusual speed. The crash site sealed before international eyes could arrive. The official statement thin and unconvincing in the way that official statements are when they are hiding the shape of something larger. The aircraft had simply fallen out of the sky, and Iran did not want anyone to know why. Maybe mechanical failure, the spokesman said. Maybe pilot error. The words had the texture of a story being constructed in real time rather than reported. American signals intelligence picked up what came next. Encrypted traffic spiking between Bandar Abbas and Isfahan. Radar installations along the coast running patterns they had never run before. A facility near Shiraz that the Central Intelligence Agency had been watching for 18 months, suddenly generating activity at hours that made no operational sense unless someone was working through the night on something urgent. Iran was hiding something. Washington needed to know what, and the only way to find out was to send something into Iran's airspace that Iran could not resist responding to, and then watch with every sensor available exactly how Iran responded. The F-35 was the key. The reaction would be the answer. 60,000 FT above the corridor that Viper 1 was now crossing, invisible and entirely silent, an RC-135 VW rivet joint reconnaissance aircraft held its orbit with the patience of a machine that had all night and knew it. No radar, no active emissions, just sensors. Extraordinary, classified, terrifyingly sensitive sensors, waiting to drink in every electromagnetic signal that Iranian air defense produced when the bait appeared on their screens. Every radar frequency, every fire control emission, every encrypted radio burst between pilots and ground controllers. The rivet joint would record all of it, and the analysts aboard would begin processing before the engagement was even over. And what they found would travel up the chain of command within hours and land on desks in Fort Meade and Langley and the Pentagon before the Iranian pilots had finished their debrief. Iran did not know the rivet joint was there. That was in the end the entire architecture of the trap. Webb crossed into the intercept corridor and slowed slightly, making himself marginally more visible to the coastal acquisition radars. A deliberate and carefully calculated act of mere exposure. Not enough to confirm, enough to provoke. The E-2D Hawkeye feeding his helmet display showed the Iranian radar network cycling through its search patterns. Methodical, professional, the product of an air defense establishment that had spent 40 years under sanctions, learning to do more with less. He watched the sweeps. He waited 11 minutes. That was all it took. Bandar Abbas Air Base detonated with activity. The rivet joint operators heard it as a cascade, acquisition radars surging to full power simultaneously, the electromagnetic equivalent of every light in a building switching on at once. Ground-based fire control systems coming online. communication circuits flooding with rapid Farsi that the National Security Agency language teams were already pulling apart word by word, and on the E-2D's display, 6 bright contacts appearing in rapid succession climbing hard off the Bandar Abbas runway in paired formations, their radar altimeter emissions broadcasting their altitude like a running announcement that no one had told them to stop making. F-4, E-Phantoms, 6 of them, all armed, all climbing with the kind of urgency that does not come from a training schedule. Webb looked at the display and felt the specific quality of focus that replaces all other mental activity when the situation becomes real. 6 against 1. Every instinct built by years of training told him to move, to maneuver, to put distance between himself and the threat. He held his position. The mission required that he be here. The mission required that Iran believe for at least a few more minutes that they had found something worth catching. The F-4s split into a bracket, 2 ships pushing north to cut the escape route, 2 ships driving east to deny lateral maneuvering room, the lead pair climbing directly at his last known position, their radar control system switching from search to acquisition mode, sweeping in tighter and tighter arcs. The maneuver was textbook, correct geometry, professionally executed, the product of pilots who had trained for exactly this scenario and believed they were executing it successfully. Webb stepped left, 30 degrees. The lead pair swept through empty sky where he had been 3 seconds earlier. Their radars painted nothing. Their pilots, working hard in cockpits that smelled of hydraulic fluid and 40 years of accumulated institutional memory, found themselves pointing at a problem that simply moved. The rivet joint recorded the confused acquisition sweeps, the radar searching, finding nothing, searching again. And the analysts noted with professional satisfaction that the modified fire control system performed exactly as the post-crash intelligence assessment had predicted. Improved, yes. Sufficient, no. Then Sierra 2 found him and everything accelerated. The lock tone hit Webb's helmet at 0441 with the abruptness of a physical impact. Sharp, unambiguous, the sound that compresses every pilot's entire nervous system into a single geometric calculation. He broke hard right. Chaff roll. The lock broke in 4 seconds. Sierra 2 overshot, its pilot yanking the nose around to reacquire a contact that ceased to exist in the expected location. 11 seconds of fire control radar data had just been delivered to the rivet joint. 11 seconds was a complete fingerprint. The analysts were already writing. Sierra 4 locked him 4 minutes later and held. 7 seconds, 8. The tone drilling Webb, diving left, trading altitude for separation. 6G pressing him flat into his seat with the indifference of pure physics. 9. Harder. 10. The lock broke as the F-4's radar lost coherence through the maneuver. The Iranian pilot fired anyway. At 0447.23, an R-60 infrared missile left Sierra 4's rail and chased airspace that Webb had already stopped occupying. The geometry was wrong for an intercept, and every pilot in the sky knew it. The missile curving toward a ballistic endpoint well behind and below him, a statement rather than an attack. But a missile in flight in international airspace was its own category of event, and Abraham Lincoln's Combat Direction Center registered it in real time. The Battle Watch captain came up on the encrypted link. Flat, deliberate. Final Viper 1. Weapons free. You are authorized to defend yourself. Webb did not fire. He pushed the throttle to full military power, pointed his nose toward open water, and left. The 4 remaining F-4s gave chase for 4 minutes before the fuel math became undeniable and the pursuit dissolved. Their radio traffic, excited, declarative. The sound of men who believed they had just successfully defended something was recorded in its entirety by a reconnaissance aircraft they never knew existed at an altitude they never thought to check. Webb was back aboard Abraham Lincoln at 0531. What follows is not a story about what Iran thought happened that morning. It is a story about what the rivet joint recorded, what the analysts found inside those recordings, and what those findings revealed about the specific shape of Iranian military capability in the wake of a crash that Tehran still refuses to fully explain. The fire control radar data confirmed what the post-crash intelligence had suggested but could not prove. Sierra 2 and Sierra 4 were running a firmware variant that had not existed in the Iranian F-4 fleet before the accident. Extended coherent tracking range, improved discrimination against low observable targets in look-down geometry. Modest numbers, 15, maybe 18% improvement, but real and operational, and distributed across at least a portion of the active fleet, with a speed that told American analysts something more important than the capability itself. Iranian engineers had extracted something from that wreckage, understood it, improved upon it, and pushed it to frontline aircraft in the time between one crash and one carefully engineered provocation. That velocity was the revelation, not the radar. The velocity. The ground-based picture was worth more. Under genuine threat stimulus, Bandar Abbas's integrated air defense network activated emitters it had kept in minimal emission standby for months, deliberately quiet, deliberately denied to American satellites, building a baseline picture. In 47 minutes, 3 previously uncharacterized systems declared themselves to the rivet joint. One of them matched the signature profile of a locally produced active electronically scanned array in the L-band. L-band is the frequency range that causes stealth aircraft the most difficulty. It was not a revolutionary system, but it existed. It was operational. And before that night, American planners had not known it was there. The missile launch was, from a purely analytical standpoint, the most durable prize of the evening. Recorded on every sensor platform in the theater, telemetry unambiguous, fired in international airspace at an American aircraft conducting lawful operations. Washington filed no protest, made no statement. The record simply exists, preserved, time-stamped, legally unimpeachable, waiting in classified archives for the moment when a justification is needed and the decision is made to provide one. And then there is the assessment that no press release will ever carry. Iran's Air Force is serious. The 6 pilots who launched from Bandar Abbas that morning were competent professionals executing a difficult mission with equipment that was never designed to fight this fight. The bracket geometry was correct. The intercept timing was reasonable. The decision to achieve lock before maneuvering showed fire control discipline that training produces and sanctions cannot easily erode. The missile launch, whatever its wisdom, required nerve of a particular kind. These things are true, and they matter. And anyone who dismisses the Iranian Air Force as a collection of museum pieces flying on prayers is making an analytical error that history has a way of correcting painfully. But competence inside an obsolete system is still obsolescence. The F-4E, upgraded or not, cannot track an aircraft that does not wish to be tracked, cannot close on something that is already accelerating away before the pursuit begins, cannot threaten a pilot who knows with the cold certainty of physics that the weapons fired at him will not reach him. 6 aircraft against 1, and the one was never in danger. Not because of luck or superior piloting, but because the machines themselves occupied categorically different eras of aviation history. And no firmware bridges that. Iran's capable platforms, the F-14 Tomcats, the Su-24 strike aircraft, the MiG-29S were not scrambled that night. Their absence is a question that has several possible answers, and every possible answer is instructive. Command conservatism, maintenance constraints imposed by 4 decades of sanctions, an institutional assessment that 6 F-4s were sufficient. Any of these explanations reveals something about the gap between Iranian military rhetoric and Iranian military reality that the Iranian public watching state media describe a glorious interception the following morning had no way to measure. Tehran told its people that its Air Force had detected an American stealth aircraft, intercepted it with 6 fighters, fired a warning shot in defense of national sovereignty, and watched the intruder flee. That story contains enough truth to be useful domestically. Webb did leave. The F-35 did not linger. No American bomb fell on Iranian soil. The narrative held its shape. What the narrative omits is everything that left with the aircraft that retreated. The retreat was not a failure. The retreat was the mission. And somewhere in the long institutional memory of American strategic planning, In the finished intelligence reports that emerged from 47 minutes over the Persian Gulf, in the target folders updated with 3 new radar signatures, and 1 complete air defense communications architecture. The mission is recorded not as a close call, but as a success, so complete that its completeness had to be kept secret to preserve it. Iran chased the ghost away.